typically does as we get deeper into the evening. So let's begin with a look at where we're seeing some warnings right now, and looking at a warning into northern parts of Georgia, that is north of the Atlanta metro area. And this is an ongoing tornado warning right now in effect for areas near Dalton. And zooming in on that, seeing some rotation showing up. It's not quite as well defined as it was moments ago. You see just south of Dalton, right in that area, we were looking at a little bit more of a well-defined area of rotation. That appears to be sort of gusting out, as we say, at this time. So I think a little less of a tornado threat at this time, but certainly something that we want to keep our eyes on. Now, as we take you farther off towards the west, this is the area where it's been really active through the afternoon and will continue to be into the evening as well. You see a lot of rain coming down in northern parts of Alabama. That may help things out somewhat, where you're getting a good bit of rain. If it's been raining for hours and hours, that's going to keep temperatures down a little bit, and it's going to make the atmosphere a little bit more stable. And so that may help you out in terms of mitigating that threat somewhat. But again, you've got a really energetic atmosphere tonight, and for that reason, we do expect that there's going to be quite a bit of activity well through the evening hours. Farther to the southwest, we've been watching this area here in western parts of Alabama, as well as into eastern Mississippi. Right now, we're not seeing any warnings along this line, but this line, this basic line, is the one that we think could be really prolific going through the night tonight, producing potentially more tornadoes, certainly a damaging wind threat, and that's going to go on right through the overnight hours. So this is why we say we want you to be really aware of what's going on with these storms. Ongoing flash flood warning now near Meridian. That is Lauderdale County under warning until 8:15 Central Time. Now taking it much farther north and west, looking at some severe warnings. One of those into the Little Rock area. In fact, you can see this great big sort of backward C shape right there. Some pretty strong wind. The apex of that to the north of Little Rock, but certainly potential for some damaging wind coming into Little Rock. And another little bow echo, as we call it, again, that's sort of a C shape there, backward C shape, coming into Cleveland, Grant, and Jefferson counties, and that is going until 8:30 tonight. Now, as we take you farther east, this is really a key to all of this. We're seeing very strong low-level winds. We call this a low-level jet, and so these winds getting up to 50 to 60 to 70 miles per hour at about 5,000 feet, and coming in at an angle relative to the surface flow. And so that change in wind speed and direction in the lowest levels of the atmosphere is a big part of what gets the lowest part of the storm rotating, and that's the beginning of the process. It's a lot more that happens, but that's the beginning of the process that leads to tornadoes. And so when you've got these really strong low-level jets, that's when you have to be concerned about an ongoing tornado threat, and that is only going to get stronger as we go through the night tonight. It's not going to weaken. It's actually going to get stronger into the overnight hours and into early tomorrow morning, because we've got such a strong parent system that is driving this. Another part of this is what we call convective available potential energy. How much energy is there for these storms to feed on? And there's plenty of that. There's no shortage of that at all. You see where we've got the red coloring there. That's where it's sufficient. You get into that orange and yellow color, that's where you're getting into the higher end potential energy. But you've got that all along this line here from Georgia back through Alabama and back and into Mississippi. So there's, again, no shortage of potential energy for these storms. So let's take this forward and show you the model forecast. And what I've got on here is that low-level jet superimposed. And so we're looking at winds, and we're cut it off at 60 miles per hour plus, and we're seeing where that coincides with these storms going through the next few hours. So we'll take this ahead into 11 o'clock Central Time, midnight Eastern Time, and you notice you've got this big line of storms, but there's a broken line there, especially as you get into parts of Alabama. And so what that is showing us is embedded supercells driven in large part by this very strong wind shear. This really strong low-level jet is contributing to that. Stronger winds higher up in the atmosphere as well. And you see all these discrete cell structures. You notice these individual shapes right in there, and then right in there. So that's supercell storms that are developing in parts of Alabama, ongoing in parts of Alabama, and coming into northern Georgia. Any one of those storms is going to be capable of not just producing tornadoes, but possibly some long track tornadoes, violent tornadoes as well. And so, as I say, this is going to be an elevated threat that is going to continue for some time. Now, in areas where you've seen a lot of rain, that may mitigate the threat somewhat. You see up there into perhaps parts of Tennessee and North Georgia. If it's just raining and raining and raining, that's going to help out a little bit. Not completely, but it'll help out a little bit. But in areas where you really haven't seen much rain, and notice there into parts of southeast Alabama, as well as into west central Georgia, in those spots, the atmosphere is going to be plenty warm and humid enough to feed into these supercell storms. And so that's why we're going to continue to see this ongoing threat. It's certainly not going to be getting really cool overnight tonight. In fact, it's actually going to be getting warmer in a lot of areas as the winds out of the south only increase. We'll take this deeper into the evening hours. So here we are at 1 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. You notice the line is coming into Atlanta right in there. And again, we've got these embedded supercell storms. So we certainly could be talking about tornado producing storms at that time coming into the Atlanta metro. And this is one of those situations where, you know, you've got to have a way to be notified. You've got to have your phone on, whatever it is. You've got to have some way to be able to be awake when these storms are coming through, because they very well could be tornado producing storms. So please keep that in mind, folks, in the Atlanta area, whether it's a matter of just staying up tonight or having your phone on and next to your bed. Mark, we want people to really be on their toes tonight. Over to you.
Yeah, those overnight threats add that added layer of complexity and difficulty, both for a communication standpoint and for making sure that people get those warnings. What we're doing now is looking in on Laurel, Mississippi. We have a view coming in from one of our storm trackers. John Humphreys is in the area. And what you're looking at here are the first responders coming in to try to clear out the roads. On this camera, we've seen kind of street after street and row after row of trees down and power lines down. These cars are stopped here partially because people keep getting out of the cars with their chainsaws and they're clearing the road, but also because you can't keep going. Those lights off in the distance, that's where the road is closed. There is no way through. There are so many trees down. And here's some of that debris. If you look carefully, you can see some tree debris that is kind of blown across this road. But at times, as I was monitoring this camera while Carl was talking to us about the active weather still ongoing, there were full trees down across the roads. Yeah, Liana, this is some of that right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can really see it as we're progressing. This is Laurel, Mississippi again. I mean, our storm tracker, like Mark had mentioned, that area with the lights out there in the distance, that's where the road is closed because of all the debris. So, Mark, it's going to be a long night ahead of us for cleanup, but also for more storms developing just east of here as well.
Yeah, and again, you see those flashing lights. We're getting closer and closer to that. That's kind of the conveyor belt of street cleaners and clearers. So we're going to undoubtedly start seeing trees down across the road here, because that's as far as they've gotten. And so as the the light is illuminated, you can see there's a tree down on the side of the road there, the blue flashing lights off in the distance. So there are crews going out and trying to clear out these roads step by step, tree by tree. They have to be out there first, because if there is a medical emergency, even not related to the storm, these the first responders have to be able to get back into these communities. I want to give you another view. Also in Laurel, Mississippi, this is from Storm Tracker Charles Peak, and here's a great example of that very thing happening. So the bulk of the tree has already been chopped up here. You got all these little pieces, and the whole, there's the fire rescue from, it looks like Calmet maybe, on that coat, and then everyone trying to clear off as much of the road as they can to open it up. So obviously with those kinds of coats on, there's fire trucks there, there's probably the power crews are chomping at the bit to try to help and get everybody back online. There are lots of power outages in this area, and then we're slowly kind of walking our way forward. Look how many people are out trying to clear out this debris. This is not one big tree. No. This is forests of big trees that they're out there with the chainsaws already, and that really does say a lot, that they're out there already trying to clear out these roads. I
mean, you brought up a good point, Mark, how dark it is too out in the distance. Normally we'd see some street lights, but power is out, so that's why it's so difficult to see out even past this view. But I mean, look at this, is a road right here that we're just seeing all these tree limbs just and debris just strewn across it. So, I mean, look how many people are actually out and about. I mean, it's going to be a long night with the damage and cleanup, but I mean, this is what it takes. I mean, and you can see it's a pretty large tree that fell down too. I mean, these are some decent sized limbs, and people are walking around with a chainsaw trying to clear out these larger limbs and break them up into smaller pieces so that they can be easier to pull away. Yeah, this is insane to see this. And, you know, yeah, like you said, we have to move fast because there can be other emergencies not related to the weather that we need to get these roads cleared so that we can go and help people.
And even if they are trying to get to homes that were hit, businesses that were hit, the true search and rescue and survey and, you know, establishing what happened, getting all that information out, none of it can happen until the roads are cleared. Because you can't get to those homes, you can't get to those businesses. So this is a crucial first step. It's a good sign that it's happening. It's a good sign that it's happening in relatively calm weather, because that's not always the case. If you're not familiar with Laurel, Mississippi, it's along I-59, just north of Hattiesburg by a bit, and then south of Meridian by a bit, kind of halfway in between those two cities, right along I-59. So these are all the communities in and around the Laurel area, just off of I-59. And look, you know, you clear one tree, and then there's the next.
Exactly.
There's the next that they have to clear out. No, you know, big cars, no real wheels can come through this until those trees are completely removed, such that you know, a normal car would be able to go over. Want to go back into the lab now. Storm specialist Carl Parker standing by, and because there's plenty of active weather still ongoing right now, Carl.
Yeah, that's right. We want to take you back into North Georgia, where there is an ongoing tornado warning right now, and actually pretty interesting cell just behind that as well. So here you see the tornado warning in effect for Murray County, that until 9:15. I'm not seeing a whole lot of evidence of rotation here. There is just a little bit showing up near Crandall perhaps, but it's not real profound, certainly not like what you saw near Dalton, right in there, sort of a broader but well-defined area of rotation, and that has really sort of gone away at this time. But take a look at the cell that is in the wake of this. Here's the cell that is under warning, Chattooga County, for a severe thunderstorm. I would guess there is a tornado possible tag in this warning. Yes, indeed, tornado possible tag right now. Not a surprise, because look at that. Sure enough, that is a rotating storm. You see that area of green and red right there just east of Somerville, and that is going to be coming up towards Dalton and towards 75. So heads up on that possible rotating storm, certainly a rotating storm, possible tornado coming your way towards Dalton and 75. And these storms are all moving very quickly. That's sort of the hallmark of a big severe weather day. When you've got a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere, storms tend to move very quickly, and this one that's near Somerville is moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. So that's not going to give you a whole lot of time to react by the time the storm is getting into your neighborhood. Now, farther southwest, we notice there's not a ton of activity right now. These are mostly flash flood warnings. There is, however, a new severe thunderstorm warning for Fayette and Walker counties. That's going until 9:15 Central Time. And we've got a pretty good bow showing up there. So concern in this case for 60-mile-per-hour wind as that moves to the east. Let's go ahead and time that out. And that'll be coming towards Jasper in just a few minutes, about 8:20 or so, getting into Cordova 8:26 and Dora at about 8:33 or so. Then to the southwest of that, fairly quiet apart from the flash flood warnings right now, but as we mentioned before, there is a screaming low-level jet coming up through this area. These winds in the blue here, these are winds of 60 miles per hour, and so just a terrific amount of low-level wind shear in the atmosphere, and that is a big part of what is going to fuel two threats, really, the damaging wind threat and also the tornado threat. When you've got a really energetic atmosphere, a very windy atmosphere, that can keep these storms going for quite some time, and that is precisely what we do expect to see tonight. So tornado watches now extending all along that line. We're going to continue our coverage of this severe weather in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
With all new episodes of Highway Through Hell at 8 and Heavy Rescue at 9, Monday night on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 67 degrees with light rain. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 64. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage here at the Weather Channel, and we are continuing to look live into Laurel, Mississippi. Our storm tracker John Humphreys, as well as our storm tracker Charles Peak, both in the area, seeing what's left in the wake of these storms, which so far has been a lot of tree damage, tree debris across the roads. Crews have been out in full force clearing out those roads so that any search and rescue that's needed, or just if there's any other, need for the roads, other emergencies that happen overnight, that there's a way to get through. That is the first step in cleaning up after a storm comes through, is to reopen the roads.
Oh,
and
wow.
Liana, here's another view, and the crews are out in full force, as I mentioned.
Yeah, power's out. So many power outages across the area thanks to the severe storms that worked their way through just a few hours ago. Now look at this. Fire rescue crews are out working to clear the roads as well. Large trees, we've already seen crews, Mark, that have been popping up and clearing out the roads as we get through the rest of the evening. But again, it's going to be a long night of cleanup, but we even still have more severe storms that are popping up even east of here.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just north of Birmingham, we have a new tornado warning that looks fairly potent at this point, Carl. It looks like that rotation is kicking up just a little bit.
Yeah, very tight little rotation showing up right now, and we are seeing some debris as well, so a likely tornado. This is northwest of Birmingham. Let's take a look at where it is right now, and moving off to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. There you see it's pretty far to the northwest of Birmingham, and we'll zoom down and get a better look at this. That is a tornado warning for Walker and Winston counties going until 9 p.m. and looking at the velocity data, not quite as profound as it was just moments ago. I'm going to go back just one frame there, and you can see just a little bit more spin showing up in this area relative to the most recent frame, but still a very dangerous storm. Let's track that forward. It's going to come right across Route 5 as it moves to the northeast, moving into the Prospect area right now, so you want to get to your safe place right now, then coming up into Falls City beyond that, and into Arley beyond that. Now, another thing we can do is we can see if there is any evidence of debris at this time. We are still seeing just a little pinpoint there. You see that little pixel, and that's been showing up actually for a couple of frames. So right in there, right before it got to Interstate 22, and then now kind of moving off a little bit more to the east there. So it may be actually sort of expanding outward as the tornado is weakening. But at least for a time, we had a tornado here. Whether or not there is an ongoing tornado, more difficult question. It looks like perhaps we have seen already that start to begin to wane a little bit. Let's hope so. But again, that's coming up towards the I-5, or rather the Route 5 corridor, and across the I-22 corridor. Now, to the west of that, also looking at a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to zoom back down into this area. Severe thunderstorm warning now west of Birmingham, and Fayette and Walker counties under warning until 9:15. Let's take a look at the particulars here. This is moving east at 65 miles per hour. So that's pretty typical when you've got a really active day to see very fast storm motions. So let's time that out and see where that's going to be headed in the next few minutes. Coming into Jasper, into Parrish, into Cordova, as well as Empire, and also into Robbins Crossroads as well. Then as we go farther south, we see there are no warnings in this area, but interesting looking storm here near Tuscaloosa. Big wind producer. Look at that. You can see that we've got some winds showing up right in there. So would not be at all surprised to see a warning coming out in that area pretty quickly. Then to the northeast, we've got more storms up into northwest Georgia. Let's zoom up and into the area near Rome. This storm has actually had some rotation on it. So Chattooga under warning right now, and also also warning for Dalton, Georgia, across Interstate 75, Murray, Walker, and Whitfield counties. Still seeing some sort of broad rotation right in there. So that is definitely a rotating storm. Whether or not that rises to the level of a tornado warning remains to be seen. But just be aware of the fact that you've got a storm that is bringing a damaging wind threat and may also produce a tornado as it continues to move to the northeast. We'll have more on that coming up in a moment. Let's get a look at the forecast going into the overnight, and here's Mark with that.
Yeah, and Carl, I want to start off with exactly where you were in the Birmingham area, because that really sets up where we go for the rest of the overnight hours. We're seeing repeated storms over many of the same communities again and again and again. You notice that's the huge amount of lightning, that lightning jump over Tuscaloosa, indicative of that strong wind push and a huge updraft to separate out those charges. We have the tornado warned storm that Carl was telling us about. But notice, if you just draw a straight line up towards Birmingham, how these storms are going on the train track, right? These are repeated storms on the same path. And until we really clear out that upper level feature that's back towards Little Rock, we're not done with that nighttime threat. So as we roll this forward, the model doing a decent job at showing us the coverage for where we're at now. Several more hours of really heavy rain. This goes through 10 o'clock local time, so we're not there yet. We've got several more hours of that heavy rain to go, and then occasional showers, which will be kind of the insult on top of injury rains as we go through the overnight, potentially with another surge late in the nighttime hours. The Atlanta metro area, even though we've been talking about North Georgia just about all evening and now the beginning of the night with repeated thunderstorm action there, we really haven't seen much in Atlanta. A report of a thunder, we're probably hearing that from a good distance away, because there's no active weather anywhere nearby the Atlanta metro area. But if you look ahead as to where we're going from here, it's going to take a bit for that line of storms to crash into Atlanta. It might be 1, even 2 or 3 o'clock before we see that real surge come through. There's going to be very strong straight line winds with these, potentially embedded rotation within there. So have a way to get those warnings overnight. The threat not really done for the Atlanta metro area until after 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. Then you get a break. Stay with us. We'll show you where the active storms are.
Goodbye, Fred.
Goodbye, Fred.
Welcome back, as we're trying to stay ahead of the storms tonight, but also show you what already occurred to give you a scope of what could still happen in your community after dark tonight. This is a live view in Laurel, Mississippi, and on the right side of your screen, that is a huge tree root ball. Huge tree came down across the road. It has since been mostly cleared away. There's some of the branches that you're seeing on the top right side of your screen. But look at this. It's just tree after tree, piece of tree debris after piece, which is making it that much harder to continue to drive down the road. The fire and rescue crews are out in full force in Laurel, Mississippi. The power crews are out because we've seen lots of power lines down. And just about everybody that's out there at this point is out there with a crew of people and chainsaws, because it's the only way through the roadway at this point.
Really impressive, Mark, how fast and quick that they've been able to clear these roads. I mean, you can see all the debris on the right-hand side using those chainsaws to clear out those larger tree limbs. And now the roads are pretty passable, at least in this section of the city. Now, I mean, as we get through and we're looking at more and more debris, you can see how large these tree limbs have been. And also, look how dark it is. I mean, power is out. We're looking at power outages galore across the region. It looks like we're kind of zooming in. Corporate limit looks like that's where we're looking at that sign, but look at all the debris that's working its way around that sign there.
And just moments ago, this was the view from this same area. So that roof completely lifted off.
Oh my goodness.
You've got just pieces of the 2x4s and the framing of the roof that's left remaining. You can see some insulation. The good news with that, the walls stayed up, at least from this vantage point. People are out of the home on the front step, kind of surveying what happened, as opposed to needing rescue. So there is, the glimmer of good news there. No telling which type of weather brought this through, whether it was the straight line winds, whether it was the rotating wind of a tornado. I'm sure there will be storm surveys going on. But, this is also happening in the background of the social distancing, which makes it that much harder for crews to come through, and just one more layer that we're trying to keep everybody safe with tonight, Liana.
And something else that I just noticed, I mean, it's still raining right now too. So not only do you not have power, you know, I mean, thank goodness the temperatures aren't that crazy cold behind this, but we do have still wet conditions to be dealing with, as well as the chances for more severe storms, even to the east of us.
Absolutely. And, you know, the Birmingham area, whether it's flash flooding or severe thunderstorm warnings, getting hit quite hard right now. I want to go back into the lab where storm specialist Carl Parker is standing by. And Carl, these storms are have such high rainfall rates. Even if they continue for an hour, we're going to have some intense flooding.
Yeah, that's another big part of what's going on tonight. The flash flood threat is going to be huge right through the night, in addition to that threat for tornadoes and damaging wind. And we've got a bunch of warnings to tell you about right now. No tornado warnings for the time being, but we expect that the tornado threat is going to continue deep into the evening, right into tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact. So let's go through some of these warnings here. We'll take you first of all into Alabama, and there is a severe thunderstorm warning to the northwest of Birmingham. Looks like we've got a brand new tornado warning. I'm going to jump down to that. Let's take a look at what's going on with that. Tornado warning now, and that is in the Tuscaloosa area. That is Jefferson and Tuscaloosa counties under warning until 9:15. Let's take a look at the velocity data. And so what we've got here is an area of surging wind right in there, very strong surge of wind right in there, and then right along that interface, right in there, just a little bit more rotation, and that is now just northeast of Tuscaloosa. So let's track that forward and see where that's going to be headed. That'll be coming up towards Birchfield at about 8:47, moving into Bull City at 8:52, and moving into Johns at about 9 p.m. Again, a possible tornado moving east 50 miles per hour along the leading edge of this surge of very strong wind. In fact, I'm going to take a look at some of these velocities there. There you go. That's an inbound velocity of 75 miles per hour. So, you know, in addition to a possible tornado, you've got just this surge of really strong wind now coming through Tuscaloosa. And so let's time that whole area out to see where that's going to be headed in the next few minutes. Coming into Holt more immediately, you're going to get the brunt of that strong wind in Holt, also into Brookwood and into Birchfield, so the same areas that we talked about for the potential tornado as well. Now going a little farther to the south, got some severe thunderstorm warnings here. One of those northeast of Hattiesburg near Waynesboro, Wayne County under warning, and then another one into the area near Hattiesburg, just south and east of Hattiesburg, Forest County under warning. In the Atlanta metro, fairly quiet right now, but you notice here that a lot of the rain is staying to the north, and that's an important point because when you get a whole lot of rain, that tends to cool off the atmosphere, makes it a little bit more stable. We're not seeing that across a lot of the Atlanta metro, which means we might see more of a chance for tornadoes late tonight. We're going to talk about the timing coming up in just a moment.
Not even our
And welcome back. Severe weather sweeping across the south, severely damaging a mobile home in southeastern Mississippi this afternoon. It's been a very scary afternoon. And look at that, a live look in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We've got very strong wind coming through. There is a tornado warning off to the northeast right now. And so this is no longer going to be a tornado threat for Tuscaloosa proper. It is a damaging wind threat that's going to go on for a while in Tuscaloosa, but there is a serious tornado threat just off to the northeast of Tuscaloosa. Well, let's take a look at where that is, and that is generally coming towards Birmingham right now. So heads up in Birmingham. You've got a rotating storm off to your southwest. Let's take a look at this warning right now. This is Jefferson and Tuscaloosa counties under warning until 9:15, and here you see the rotation. We're actually getting some sort of bad data there, but basically you've got a pretty strong circulation along the leading edge of that bow, and that is now coming towards Abernant and areas north of that. I'm going to time this out. This is moving northeast at 50 miles per hour, and so that's going to be coming into Birchfield here in the next few minutes. That's the area we're watching right there. moving towards Bull City perhaps, and eventually towards Johns as well. But Birchfield more immediately at 8:48 or so. So you've got, boy, just about 10 minutes before this thing comes into Birchfield. At a minimum, we're going to be talking about some very strong straight line wind, but possibly a tornado as well. There's a brand new scan, and I'll tell you, this thing is looking more and more tight with each new scan there. Let's look and see if there's some debris showing up, and there is debris indeed. Wow. So we've got a very serious storm ongoing right now, folks. Looks like it's in a relatively rural area. I'm not seeing any towns right around here. So let's give you the lay of the land. This is now moving away from Tuscaloosa, but that right there, that circle right there, that is where the radar is detecting debris that's being lofted into the air. When that is co-located with a very strong circulation, we know we've got a tornado. So we do now have an ongoing tornado now east of 69. So I would guess a relatively wooded area. It's probably largely tree debris that we're seeing right now. And there's a brand new scan. It's continuing and moving off to the northeast. So let's get a sense of the vector here. That is basically just about due northeast. And so, tracking that out one more time, going forward there, that's going to be coming towards Little Shoal at 8:56. So folks, if you're in Little Shoal, there is a tornado on the ground. It is to your southwest. It's now about 15 minutes away, and this thing means business. This is a very, very serious storm. Please get to your safe place right now, lowest, most interior room, as there's an ongoing tornado in this area. Let's back out a little bit, get a better look at this one more time. So again, the vector for now appears to be a little bit more northeast. You can see where it's been moving here in the last few minutes. So, it appears we've got more of a northeast rather than a east-northeast motion. And so that would take it up in this area. And again, that's going to come towards Little Shoal, also towards Bull City, perhaps about 8:52 or so. If you're in these areas, you've got to get to your safe place right now. We've got a tornado on the ground right now that is producing damage, most likely just tree damage for the most part right now. It's in a very rural area right now, but it's not going to remain that way. And eventually, this is going to get up into the west side of the Birmingham metro areas. That continues off to the northeast. Very, very dangerous storm here, folks. Please take this seriously and get to your safe place right now. All right, let's take a look at some other areas where there are some ongoing storms. Also to the south now into areas of southern Mississippi. We've got some severe warnings here. Nothing that appears to be terribly strong at this time. Also looking into the Atlanta metro. We've got some storms well off to the north, but you'll notice that there's not much going on in the Atlanta metro right now. Now that's important because that means that without there being a whole lot of heavy rain coming down, the atmosphere is going to be a little bit more conducive to very strong storms later tonight. And I want to show you the model forecast. And what I've got superimposed on this model forecast is the strong low-level wind, because that's a really critical part of what helps to develop the low-level rotation in these storms. There are a lot of other parts that have to come together, but once you get that low-level mesocyclone, as we call it, the rotating storm, that's one of the first parts of this whole process that leads to tornadoes. So we've certainly got exceptionally strong low-level winds coming up and into this area. That is 11 o'clock Central Time and midnight Eastern. And so all in this area, you notice the lack of rain there with very strong southerly winds, and that is going to mean that the atmosphere is going to be warm and humid, and it will be supportive of supercell storms, Mark, coming into the Atlanta metro around 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, and it could be a very rough night tonight. Back to you.
Yeah, all Atlanta has to do is look at what's happening around Birmingham right now. I want to update everyone on the tornado warning that is approaching Birmingham from the Tuscaloosa area. This is a very dangerous storm indeed. Here's a look at the tornado warning, a new update on that warning to really fine-tune it, narrow down where the worst of the risk is. There is one on the north side of town as well along I-65. We'll get to that in just a second. But in Jefferson and Tuscaloosa, very strong signature here, almost this kind of curl where this tornado is moving in. Very strong rotation. So this is not only showing strong signs of rotation, but also a fairly clear signature of debris as well. Look at that dropout. That is debris being lofted into the air and tumbling around. It's right near the campgrounds there, Deer Lick campgrounds. If you're familiar with that area, this is moving right through that zone. So extraordinarily dangerous for the campgrounds right now. And if we time this out, it will be approaching places like Bull City, crossing over Watermelon Road, then getting over towards Johns and Bessemer by about the top of the hour. Now, you notice Birmingham's not that far away. If this holds together, and so many of the storms have done that very thing today, is stay on the ground for a long time and really hold their own for a long time. It'll be near Birmingham by about 9:30. Quickly, just north of town, also a strong rotation signature on this part of the storm headed towards Coleman.
At Papa John's, we want your way.
Wake up watching AMHQ. Weekday mornings on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 67 degrees with light rain. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 64. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back. We are following a very dangerous storm now southwest of Birmingham, a likely tornado now with debris showing up on the radar. Let's take a look. This is Jefferson and Tuscaloosa counties under warning until 9:15 Central Time. So that warning does extend into the Birmingham metro area. The motion, as has been the case with all of these storms, is very rapid off to the northeast, about 50 miles per hour. Most recent scan year, we're actually not seeing as much evidence of a very tight rotation, so there does appear to be some weakening. What we are seeing is a very strong area of winds, a surge of winds right there that's going to be coming up into the southwest side of the Birmingham metro. But take a look at the velocity data, and you can see the pinpoint that was going on right in this area. A couple of frames ahead of that and a couple of frames behind that. We did have debris at that time, and I'll bet you anything we're not seeing quite as much of a debris signature right now, because you can see how that is sort of washed out in the most recent frame. Let's just be on the safe side, though. Let's track it out anyway. The vector here is more off to the northeast, and that's coming up towards Little Shoal. So at a minimum in Little Shoal, you're going to be looking at some very strong wind coming through, but it does appear, at least for the time being, at least for now, that we've got a little bit less of a tornado threat. But you know, again, as I mentioned, great big mini bow here, and that is going to be coming up and towards Birmingham. So let's track that out as well. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning, and that'll be coming right up into the southwest side of the Birmingham metro. So into Johns near the top of the hour, Chin as well, Bessemer about 9:07, and Fairfield at about 9:10. Damaging wind threat is headed your way. Now looking at and sure enough, this is what we were talking about moments ago. We were looking at debris showing up with this storm. Very well developed debris signature right in there in, you know, what appears to be a largely rural area. But when you see that really concentrated area, those are irregular shapes that the radar is picking up. When you see that really concentrated area that is co-located with a very strong rotation, then you know you've got a tornado on the ground. So we certainly did have that. It was probably largely tree debris. Another scan there, still very strong. And right at the time when we're starting to see the velocity signature weaken some, we see also that this debris field is now beginning to expand out. So that's, you know, precisely what you've seen in many videos. In tornado videos, you've got a real strong tornado, then it begins to weaken, and that debris field begins to spread out. That's exactly what's going on right now. So again, we've got less of a tornado threat right now, but certainly there is a very serious damaging wind threat. You see that big bow. I mean, that is a mean signature right there, right through there. And there's a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued for the Birmingham metro area. Let's take a look at the particulars there. Warning 60-mile-per-hour wind right now. We'll need to keep a good eye on that. That's, you know, one of the threats that you have when you've got very strong winds in the atmosphere in general is that you can see a really strong straight line thunderstorm wind. And so certainly a heads up, Birmingham, you've got a very significant storm coming your way. Now to the north of that, Cullman, Morgan counties under warning until 9:15 Central Time. Let's take a look at the velocity here. I've got a little bit of a dog leg here right in there. That little dog leg is sometimes where a tornado can develop. It's not the most profound signature that I've ever seen, but nonetheless, there is some threat for a tornado. That'll be coming up towards Cullman about 9:09 or so, Simcoe at 9:18, Holly Pond at about 9:22 or so. And then up into the Atlanta area, got a couple of ongoing warnings here. There are, flash flood warnings all over the place. It's going to be a big part of what happens tonight. Closer look there, and you can see we've got a severe thunderstorm warning now just east of Dalton. But, big part of what is driving this tornado threat, along with the straight line wind threat, is a very strong low-level jet, as we call it. These winds coming out of the southwest, south-southwest, about 5,000 feet up. That helps to create the low-level shear, and that's the beginning of the process that leads to eventually several other things that can lead to tornado development. So, following that low-level jet, where we see that continuing to be in place along with the strong storms, that's where we've got the concern for tornadoes. So you see these discrete cells here, these individual cells showing up in southern and central parts of Alabama, Birmingham, down to Mobile through late tonight. So, southern Alabama, southeastern Alabama, it's going to continue to be a very, very active night tonight. Most likely, we'll probably see many warnings deep into the night. Then we get into 1 o'clock in the morning Central and 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So this line is coming through Atlanta at the time, and it's going to be a mix of things. It's going to be a damaging wind threat, but there are going to be some embedded supercells within that line, again fueled by this very strong wind in the atmosphere, the shear in the atmosphere. And so as all of that comes into the Atlanta metro, there will be a threat for tornadoes deep into the overnight hours. And so, Liana, we want folks to have some way to be notified, because this could be a really serious night tonight in the Atlanta metro, one of the most serious we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. So let's go ahead and show you what we've been seeing on the ground. This is from our storm trackers in the area. This is in Mississippi, Laurel, Mississippi, from our storm tracker, John Humphreys. And what we're looking at in the distance is some of the damage. I mean, we've been seeing them driving through. You can see some of the debris, but you can't even make out what this is. It looks like it might be metal of some sort, but look how large it is. It looks like maybe there's some power lines, possibly. You can kind of see wires right there. Unfortunately, so much damage that we've been seeing and coming across. Roads have been closed. Power is out across the area. We're going to continue tracking this severe threat as we get through the rest of the evening next.
Unfortunately, already a deadly and destructive Easter Sunday across parts of the South. Tornadoes across several states, including this one that ripped through parts of Alabama. The storm motion today, Liana, a very important part of the story. They're moving 50 to 60 miles per hour. So if you're not seeing this race left or right on your screen, that means it's either moving directly towards the camera or directly away. And they're moving fast. Now that it's night, oof, you got to trust those warnings and even sleep in the safe spot of your home tonight. Exactly.
Make sure your phone is charged and take it off of vibrate or silent, because you need to get these alerts. Take a look at some of the damage that was left behind. We have video from Laurel, Mississippi. This right here is showing you what we saw earlier in the day. The National Weather Service already saying this was likely an EF4 or EF5 that did this, and unfortunately 7 people have been confirmed to be killed by this storm area. Now this, the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency did confirm that 7 people were killed across the state today.
A tragic Easter Sunday already, and we now are going into the overnight hours where we know there is that much more risk. Tornadoes also left major destruction in Louisiana. We have some video from Monroe. A tornado damaged several businesses, including a trucking company there. Big rigs flipped, the garage doors just demolished, ripped right through. Power out to thousands. tonight, and we are not done. The atmosphere is still ready to go, even though we are in the nighttime hours. And we actually have some new warnings popping up all the way into southern portions of Alabama. So we are live tonight tracking the severe weather threat across the south. Tornado warnings ongoing, as I mentioned. So let's get right into the lab. Also joined tonight with storm specialist Carl Parker. Carl.
Yeah, really important point, Mark. A lot of cases we see things begin to settle down as we get deeper into the evening and the overnight hours. That is not necessarily going to be the case in this case. You've got such a strong parent storm, a very energetic atmosphere. It could be a really long night in Georgia and even into the Carolinas early tomorrow morning. Let's take a look at some of the warnings right now. We've got several of them to point out. Tornado warning ongoing here north of Birmingham. That in effect for Cullman and Morgan counties until 9:15. So we're seeing a little bit of rotation showing up here now just southwest of Cullman. It's not the most profound rotation I've ever seen, but certainly there is some threat for a tornado there. That coming up towards Cullman at about 9:10 or so, and then Simcoe at about 9:18 as that moves off to the northeast. South of that, there was a tornado warning here. Now just a severe thunderstorm warning for Jefferson County. That does include the Birmingham area. A very strong straight line wind threat. You see the big bow, big backward C shape. That'll be coming into Birmingham at 9:19. So heads up for some strong wind headed your way. We did, by the way, see a tornado right in here, and that washed out. You can see the debris sort of stretching out there, spacing out as the tornado weakened. Also a tornado warning now into southwestern parts of Alabama. Choctaw, Clark, and Washington counties under warning until 9:45. So this is now near Milry and moving off to the east very quickly. All these storms moving rapidly. That's going to be one of the hallmarks of these storms. When you got a really energetic parent storm, strong wind fields, it drives the storms along quickly. In this case, moving now to the east, I think a good 50 miles per hour. Let's take a look here. There you go, 55 miles per hour, the latest motion on that. So possible tornado coming towards right now, coming into Milry, Frankville, and Coffeyville. Beyond that, you could be looking at tornado headed your way. Now we go up into North Georgia, and we're looking at another warning here, warning now for Georgia and also for Tennessee. So that is Murray County in Georgia. We've got an observed tag there, and then Polk County into southern Tennessee. And let's take a look at the velocity data here. And we were looking at a pretty tight little rotation just moments ago. Right in there, you can see that tight little area of blue and orange. So there could very well have been a tornado there. Successive scans here. It's not as well defined. You can see this is what is left of it. There is still something there, but it doesn't look as tight as it was. Nonetheless, let's just track that out. That'll be coming up towards Parksville into Ball Play here in the next few minutes. Parksville beyond that, and then Archville going into about 10:16 or so. So tornado watch there in the parts of northeast Tennessee as well as western North Carolina. That's going to be going for some time. Let's move that just a little farther east and get a look at the watch there. That extending into areas just outside of Asheville. Expect that we will see tornado watches all across the western Carolinas into early tomorrow morning. Tornado watch until 11 p.m. for North Georgia, but a really critical distinction here. That's for North Georgia. We expect that a lot of the rest of Georgia is going to get in on this weather, but it's going to be later at night, more towards 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning in the Atlanta metro and even later in central parts of Georgia. Also, tornado watch across much of Alabama going until midnight Central Time, and then another one in southern Mississippi as well as into southern parts of Louisiana. We have not seen very many warnings in Louisiana over the last hour here. So let's take a look at the forecast going forward. This is a high resolution model forecast showing you those really strong low-level winds, and that's a key ingredient when you talk about a tornado threat and also a serious damaging wind threat. We've got these very strong winds coming along with the line as it moves eastward, and so taking this forward, we'll go into 11 o'clock Central, midnight Eastern. Notice that you've got a line of storms here, but discrete cells within that line. So we expect that there are going to be supercell storms all up and down that line from central Alabama back down into the southwest part of the state, and that's going to continue for quite some time. We'll go into, say, 1 o'clock in the morning Central, Very strong storms rolling through Montgomery, Alabama, coming towards Columbus, Georgia, getting towards Macon, coming through the Atlanta metro. And again, same story here. Very strong low-level winds. We've got an environment that is going to be favorable for tornadoes. So we certainly could be talking about supercell storms producing tornadoes, tornado warnings, in addition to a damaging wind threat. It is really, really important that you've got a way to be notified tonight. If you've got to go to bed, then just make sure you've got your phone on. Make sure that the alert mode is on and have it nearby so you can be notified of warnings, because this is going to be one of those nights when we probably see a lot of not just severe thunderstorm warnings, but tornado warnings as well. And then beyond that, we take it into the early morning hours, 4 o'clock in the morning, starting to move away from Atlanta, coming into central Georgia. And this is what I mean. Even though we don't have the watches up right yet, there could very well be tornado watches in these areas going into the early morning hours. And then this is starting to approach Charlotte, and then coming over into the western part of the Carolinas. You notice it's a large area of heavy rain here. We're not seeing as much of that supercell structure farther to the north. But still, because you've got a really energetic atmosphere, we could still be looking at the potential for some supercell storms embedded within that area. And I think an even better chance as you get farther south, more towards southeast Georgia and into southern parts of South Carolina. So that is 6 o'clock in the morning. Again, it's going to be one of those nights where storms are going all night long, and they don't necessarily calm down just because you're into the overnight hours. We could be talking about warnings going all night long here, and then even into early tomorrow morning as well. In fact, through the morning tomorrow, an ongoing threat in the Carolinas and down into South Georgia and in northern Florida. So a lot to be watching here over the next, say, 12 to 18 hours. And let's get a little more now from Mark.
And Carl, you mentioned that strong rotation that was in North Georgia. I want to go into detail on that storm just for a second, because as it came through the forest, it must have hit some trees there. There's a bit of a valley. There's some trees. Look at this. You watch this storm come through now into the Tennessee side. So the Murray County tornado warning confirmed because of the debris seen on radar, and then that same storm continued into portions of Tennessee. There's not that much clear rotation here. It might be underneath that range folding, but if you go back where Carl was talking about following this rotation right on through, it was still a strong rotation, seemed to broaden out. But I want to show you what's known as the correlation coefficient. When the radar is watching for symmetrical objects versus tumbling objects. And as this storm approached, look at this, we start seeing some colors showing up here. That is some debris that is then intensifying, a clear debris signature there that got more intense north of Crandall approaching Cisco, and then all of that is now falling out across portions of Tennessee. There is still debris in the air as of the most recent scans there. So a very strong but brief rotation was more than enough to whatever was there got kicked up into the sky, and so this is, you know, indicating what normally would be steady rain, but there's actually some debris that the radar beam is hitting. And so we know that by looking at that other mode of the radar. So that's the Tennessee side. Polk County still with that tornado warning as we follow that storm. It's exiting Georgia, no longer under a warning there, but still under that warning on the Tennessee side. Polk County goes until 10:30, and there's a chance that this could recycle. We're pretty far from the radars. We're not getting a great view at that storm. One radar site up by Knoxville, another down in Atlanta, so we're about halfway in between the two with a bunch of mountains in the way. So keep that in mind, just one more complexity of the storms that we're following tonight. And of course, we can also jump back towards the Birmingham area. Birmingham itself under a severe thunderstorm warning. North of town near Coleman, a huge surge of wind and some embedded rotation still within that as well. Can't completely rule out when you see a kind of a signature like this that, you know, back in that little loop-de-loop right in here, that there could still be some embedded rotation. So we've got all this air surging in this way and a big push of wind coming the other, and where those interact, which is right here where the reds and greens are right next to each other, there is still a chance that we could get that rotation, that rotating wind of a tornado, and it would be just south of Coleman at this point, still making its way on off towards the north and east at a very fast clip. And then just the straight line winds would be enough. We've got all kinds of wind making its way towards the Birmingham area. The lightning activity in here is just off the charts. We've got huge amounts of rain, okay, the rainfall rates, and so you put all that together together and look at the scope of this flash flood warning. Now, I will say that the lightning has come down a bit compared to where it was in the Tuscaloosa area, so those updrafts have collapsed a little. That also means all that water that was suspended up in the sky is also collapsing along with it. So in the past 3 hours where we had that big lightning jump where the storms already came through and are ending a bit, 1 inch per hour rainfall rates over 3 hours, but a lot of that was in a very short period. That's more than enough to do some flooding. And now we're going into the paved over area of Birmingham. Comparatively, Birmingham, you haven't even begun yet when it comes to that heavy rain threat. So it's really going to be coming down along that I-65 corridor. The bottom line here is that we have a lot of risks in the Birmingham metro area, Liana, whether it's the rotation that could be there south of Coleman, the straight line winds near Birmingham, or the flooding rains and lightning for just about everybody. It's going to be a dangerous night continuing here across much of the south.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been an intense several hours. Take a look. We're looking at video from Laurel, Mississippi, live view from our storm tracker, John Humphreys. We've been seeing him just come across debris-strewn roads and even blocked roads where people are taking chainsaws to clear out these large trees. On the left-hand side, you can see these trees that are, it looks like this road has actually been cleared out by those chainsaws. You can see those clean marks on those tree branches and limbs there. But it's a slow go, and it looks like they're still moving very slowly, looking for additional debris that could be strewn across the roads. Unfortunately, we've already had 7 deaths in the state of Mississippi, unfortunately, and the threats, they keep on coming as we continue to track the severe storms that continue to march eastward. Notice how dark it is as well. Power outages galore. The nice thing is that temperatures are still on the warmer side, but you still need the power back on immediately, so that's why they're clearing the roads as fast as they can. Mark mentioned this. We have the threat for flash flooding likely as we get into tomorrow morning, and it's going to be spanning across a lot of real estate, digging down into the clipping parts of the Florida Panhandle and lifting up into parts of the Mid-Atlantic. But this zone right here, that's where we're going to have the biggest threats for flash flooding. We've already had some of those warnings pop up. We have a flash flood watch in effect through tonight. It's spanning from Memphis all the way up towards Nashville, Knoxville, Asheville, Chattanooga, clipping parts of northern Georgia, Huntsville, Tupelo. You're all included in that. And it's already starting to pick up. I mean, look at how heavy this rain has been. What I mean by that is all those shades of red, even back here towards Little Rock, that's some really intense rain that's coming out of the sky right there. So we have multiple threats that Mark has been talking about. We have those tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and flash flood warnings. This one is in effect until 11:30 p.m. Central Time. Again, it's good that so many people are staying home, not too many people out on the roads. If you must travel, maybe you're an essential worker, make sure you avoid. Never drive through a flooded roadway. Another flash flood warning. This is just in northern Georgia. We're looking at Boyan, Chattanooga Valley, Dalton cities. Those are going to be impacted through 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You were starting to see, notice what's out even further west. All that heavy rain is heading east. All right, let's continue our tour. We're going to continue to track this threat. Actually, parts of I-75 will be embedded in these zones, and we'll go back over here towards those multiple flash flood warnings that are impacting parts of Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. Let's go ahead and get the latest on the storm threat with Carl Parker in the lab.
Liana, we want to tell you about some storms that are now in eastern parts of Arkansas and coming towards Memphis, Tennessee. We've got a very serious damaging wind threat along with these. They are moving quickly now along Interstate 40. Severe thunderstorm warning for Prairie and White and Woodruff counties. We do not yet have a warning for Memphis proper, but if we time this out, it's probably going to be coming into Memphis at about 10:19 Central Time. So got a little ways to go yet, but certainly a very serious damaging wind threat may be approaching Memphis later tonight. Also warning for Coahoma, Lee, and Phillips County until 9:45. We've been looking at a threat for 70-mile-per-hour winds as these storms move east at 50 miles per hour. So again, rapidly closing in on that 55 corridor over the next hour or so. Let's take you to the north of Birmingham and a brand new tornado warning to tell you about. We've got the ongoing warning in Cullman and Morgan County, and a new warning has just come out to the north of that. Blount County under warning, Cullman, Marshall, and Morgan counties under warning as well. Looking at the velocity data, that is actually tightened up. Look at that right in there. That circulation is the one we're concerned about, and that is coming across 278 right now. Going to be moving into Baileyton at about 9:24. Please get to your safe place right now in Baileyton, Alabama.
Now at Domino's, we're more than just
Of Highway Through Hell at 8 and Heavy Rescue at 9. Monday night on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 68 degrees with light rain. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 64. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Take it back.
Welcome back to our coverage of what has been a very dangerous night across many parts of the Deep South. There is a live look at Birmingham. Severe thunderstorm warning right now. We've got a threat of damaging wind coming through the city as we speak. And we could be looking at some 60-mile-per-hour winds, at least now. Not a tornado warning for this area, but certainly there have been tornado warnings both to the west and now to the north. And let's take a look at what's going on the radar right now. And folks, I want you to know this is going to be one of those nights where storms keep going deep into the night, even into the overnight hours. Even tomorrow morning, we're going to be looking at more warnings across this region because you've got a really strong parent storm, a very energetic atmosphere. And let's begin with a look at some of these warnings here that are now into northern Alabama. They've got an ongoing tornado warning in effect that is just east of Coleman, Marshall, and Morgan counties under warning until 9:45. I'm not seeing quite as much evidence of circulation at this time. You can go back just a couple of frames here, and we're looking for these areas where you see sort of a little pinpoint, and right in there, that's sort of a telltale sign of some rotation right there just east of Coleman. And in successive frames here, it is not as obvious. There's certainly a shear line. There's an area where winds are coming out of different directions, but it's not what I would say a profoundly obvious rotational signature right now. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Warning ongoing for Jefferson, and you can see the strong wind coming into the metro. New warning now, a much larger one, Blount, Jefferson, St. Clair counties. That is going until 10:30 Central Time, and here the leading edge of that strong wind, as I said, just now coming into Birmingham. Southwestern Alabama, we've got a tornado warning to tell you about here. This is for Choctaw, Clark, and Washington counties until 9:45. This looks to be more of a damaging wind threat. You see that sort of a backward C shape right in there. We'll change the modes here, see if it looks any different. It's just about the same thing. So I think we've got primarily a damaging wind threat. There's a brand new scan, and that's going to be coming up towards McIntyre and Peacock, and maybe a tornado right at that little dog leg. That's one of the areas that we have to watch where you see a little kink right in there. Possibly a tornado developing there, but it looks like for the most part this is more of a damaging wind threat, at least right now. Now into the Atlanta metro, for the most part the weather has been clear of your area. We think that's going to change later tonight. There is an ongoing tornado warning in Polk County. This has been interesting. Mark was talking about this earlier. Look at the debris signature that showed up. That came right into Cisco and Crandall, and it was not a long-lived tornado. It was just a brief, tight rotation. A lot of trees up there, so probably a lot of tree debris showing up, and that came right across 411, and just as quickly it started to go away here. And so you've got a little less instability as you get up into Tennessee, and for that reason, when we do see these spin-ups, they're probably going to be short-lived for the most part, as opposed to areas farther south where you've got a lot more instability and storms can keep going for a much longer period of time. So here's a look at the model forecast along with the very strong low-level winds. It's one of the key ingredients when you're looking at a tornado threat and a damaging wind threat, and we expect that this low-level jet is not only going to be in place, it's actually going to be getting stronger going through the overnight hours. So Notice where it is and notice the storms there. Notice the character of the storms. If you look very closely, you can see a little bit of this shape in some of these storms. So that's the model indicating that we're going to see supercell storms embedded within that line. It's a line of storms overall, but it's got supercells or rotating storms embedded within the line. And that's going to be coming across south central Alabama over the next couple of hours here. So heads up in Montgomery and points farther south down into Mobile. Then we're going to watch that begin to move over into the Atlanta metro about 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is one of those nights, Mark, when we want people to be aware or have some way to wake up as the storms come in. Over to you.
Yeah, and if you needed one more thing to really heighten your alarm, we want to bring in Dana Baumgartner with the Jones County Fire Department. Dana, thanks for joining us. I know it's been a catastrophic day across the county. Can you explain where we are at this point?
Well, we're still, responding to calls that we've not been able to get to. I've just spent about an hour trying to get about 2 miles. So there's a significant amount of damage, trees down, lots of injuries, so many that I've lost count so far. So we hope to tally those numbers later. But we have some significant damage all the way from the, southern west Jones County, outside of around Laurel, all the way kind of straight through to the northeast end of the county to Heidelberg up in Jasper County.
I'm so sorry to hear that. We do have some images on the screen from Laurel that just to kind of reiterate what you just told us. It looks like a structure completely just demolished, obliterated. Where do you go from here? You said you're still trying to get to some residents at this point?
We are. At this point, we have a couple of actual persons in danger that we're trying to get to and get them to safety. But after that, it's going to be weeks of cleanup. This is very significant for this county, and it'll take all hands on deck to get it back to normal, get all the roads passable and clean.
Absolutely. We're talking with Dana Baumgartner with the Jones County Fire Department there in Mississippi. Dana, I want to keep you with us. We're coming up against a hard break, and I don't want to get you cut off if I ask another question, but I'd love to talk with you more. So stay with us. We're going to talk more with Dana in just a second. Again, what you're looking at live here is a live view from storm tracker Charles Peak, who is in that same county in Laurel, Mississippi. That structure that you see into the darkness, into the distance there, completely demolished by storms earlier today. We'll be right back.
This right here is the new
softener and scent beads.
Welcome back. We have continuing coverage here on the Weather Channel. Severe weather has already come through portions of Mississippi. With the scope of the cleanup here to go in Laurel, it's dangerous already out there with trees covering roads, first responders that can't get to people that are still calling for help. I do want to quickly tell you that there are more storms on the way, just crossing over the river, coming into northern and central Mississippi. The whole western side of your state under severe thunderstorm warnings. These will eventually come into areas that were already impacted from earlier today. So if you're not in a safe spot, you're listening in, try to get to a safe spot now while the weather is quiet. If you were listening with us before the break, we were talking with Dana Baumgartner from this area, Jones County. I want to bring her back in. Dana, thanks so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Yes, sir.
As you mentioned that you're having a tough time with the first responders even getting to some of the residents that are still calling for help. Is there any sense on the scope and the scale, how many homes or businesses were damaged, or is it too early to know at this point?
It's too early to know at this point. I think tomorrow we'll have a lot more information for you guys on that front. But thankfully, we did not have a whole lot of businesses in the path. I think So Mississippi did probably have some. We did have a volunteer fire department that was pretty much demolished in So. And there's just so many homes that have sustained damage, and some of the homes are irreparable, and with several injuries, and at least one fatality.
I'm so sorry to hear that. You mentioned one of the volunteer fire departments was hit. When the first responders are taken out, when the trucks are taken out like that, and it's such a wide-scale event, where do you go for mutual aid? Are there communities that weren't hit that are able to help you guys tonight?
Absolutely. We've had fire department personnel from Wayne County. We've had Jasper County come in. We had ambulances from AMR and Hafford EMS. I'm sure there's some other ones that I just have not seen yet. But people from all over have come in to help this area, and we're very, very, very grateful.
And yet it's got to be hard for those first responders to even get in. You said the scope of the tree damage was pretty intense.
It is, yes. They've had difficulty as well getting to people, just like we have. They're following our fire trucks around and just trying to get to all the patients to treat everybody.
Any sense on how many of your roads are still shut down, closed, barricaded off, either by trees or by police at this point?
I could not give you a number. I know that many of them now are passable at least a little bit, maybe not fully functional, but they're where you can kind of drive through. Where I'm at currently, there is a path on a 2-lane road that kind of one lane is kind of weaving in and out of the trees that are down and things like that. So we're getting there. We just hadn't got it all where we can at least get through yet.
Sure, and you're responding, of course, with the fire department. Any reports of fires, gas leaks, things that you're really concerned about tonight?
We have had a couple of reports of gas leaks, and I know that the local gas companies are responding to those. Of course, the power companies are multiple reports of power lines down. That's everywhere, all through the path of the tornado. But nothing that I'm aware of at this point that has been a gas leak or anything like that to threaten life.
And again,
but no structure fires, thank goodness.
Oh, thank goodness. That is a good thing. While we're talking with you, we're getting some live views from the Laurel, Mississippi area, and it seems like a garage attached to a building that's just completely shifted and a really significant structural damage. How much of that type of damage have you encountered tonight? Is this a one-off thing? Is this almost all the homes you've seen? Kind of paint the picture for us.
It is all over. I left an area earlier in the evening where a mobile home was sitting in the middle of a road. I've seen a mobile home right next that was across the road from one home, and now it's sitting right on top of that home. So significant property damage, and we're just trying to do the best we can with this and get to everybody.
Just a catastrophic night already, day into night. That's Dana Baumgartner with Jones County, the Mississippi area Fire Department. Thanks so much for talking with us. Good luck getting to everyone that you're still trying to get to tonight, and just try to stay as safe as you can.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll be thinking of Jones County as well as so many of the others tonight. You're looking live at some of the damage, a structure that is completely shifted, garage doors blown in, some walls failing there. So a dangerous spot to even be there, giving us those views. Hopefully they'll back up soon, and we'll be right back to show you where the active weather is.
About Trulicity.
Welcome back to our coverage of severe weather. We do have some new tornado warnings to tell you about. It's going to be a very long night across a lot of the Deep South. We hope that you'll stay with us through the night tonight. If you've got to go to bed, make sure that you've got your phone on out ahead of this line of storms in Georgia as well as southeast Alabama, because you've got to have a way to be notified of these storms as they're coming through. We could very well be looking at tornado warnings going deep into the overnight, even into tomorrow morning. Let's take a look at some of the new warnings here. First of all, northeast of Birmingham, brand new tornado warning in effect right now. That includes Albertville, that's DeKalb and Marshall counties, going until 10 p.m. So seeing some rotation showing up here near Douglas and just west of 431. Let's track that out. It's sort of a broader rotation, and that's going to be coming towards Albertville as well as Hustleville and Five Forks. A possible tornado coming your way, that moving towards the east-northeast. All of these storms moving very quickly. That's one of the hallmarks of the storms today, you've got really strong wind fields, and that is part of what is driving this tornado and damaging wind threat. In southwestern Alabama, a couple of tornado warnings to tell you about here. One of these in effect for Marengo County going until 10 p.m. Looking at the velocity data, I'm not seeing anything that really stands out. There is some rotation showing up right in there, and that's going to be coming towards Hamden as well as Prairie Bluff. We're just not getting a really good look at it. It's a little bit far from the radar. Then to the south of that, got another warning here, and that is in effect for Choctaw, Clark, and Washington counties. Leading edge of that storm just about out of the warning. You can see there is a little dog leg there. I'm going to zoom in on that, and that is northeast of Jackson. So you see a couple of areas where you see this little notch. There's one right here near 84, another one right in there. So you certainly have to watch those spots where you see that little bit of a sort of an L shape. That could be an area where you could be looking at tornadoes. But again, in this area, I'm not seeing anything that looks really profound at this time. So let's go farther off towards the north. And here, by the way, the very strong winds that are coming up from the south. The low-level jet, a big part of what is driving this tornado threat and the damaging wind threat, adding to the shear in the atmosphere. And that shear is what gets these storms rotating. That's the beginning of the process that leads to these tornadoes developing. Now, here into areas of western Mississippi and also eastern Arkansas, warning for Cross, Poinsett, and St. Francis counties. This is now coming towards the Memphis area. I'm going to move this forward just a little bit to catch up with the storms there. So that'll be moving into West Memphis about 10:15, and Memphis around 10:26 could very well be damaging winds coming your way as that moves in. Then we see also warning to the south, Coahoma, Lee, and Phillips County, warning going until 9:45, and another one to the east of that, including Tunica County, going until 10:30. 70-mile-per-hour wind is the threat with these storms. Now, in the Atlanta metro area, you notice here that it has been, relatively quiet as compared to what's going on to the north and west. You also notice that there's a tornado watch that is north and west of a lot of the metro. Does that mean that you're not going to see a lot of weather tonight? Absolutely not. That only means that the more imminent threat is in the northern part of Georgia, but we do expect that a tornado watch is going to be issued for the Atlanta metro area, and I want to show you the high-resolution model forecast showing us that low-level jet. We talk about the importance of that in the shear that develops, and we see these storms coming into Atlanta around 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. So again, very late tonight, and there could easily be a whole series of supercell storms contained within the line of storms that's coming through. So a broken line, as we say, coming through, and we could very well be looking at tornado warnings in addition to severe thunderstorm warnings coming through this area. So again, if you're going to go to bed, fine, just make sure that you have a way to be notified, whether that's a weather radio. I know not a lot of people have those, but everybody's got a phone, and pretty much every phone has got the capability of letting you know that there is a warning. Just have to leave it on, leave it in alert mode, and make sure that it's nearby, and so it will wake you up. Because again, Liana, we do expect that it's going to be going for a lot of the night tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night, Carl. Let's take you now to Laurel, Mississippi, where we have our storm tracker, Charles Peak. He's at the site of some damage. It looks like a home. This is heartbreaking. Completely obliterated, it almost looks like. So much debris. You can see it looks like lots of trees down, large trees at that. And whoa, look at this. This is so sad to see this. I mean, we've already had 7 deaths in the state of Mississippi, and thank goodness you're behind this threat. You had some lingering showers, but for the most part, now is the time to clean up. And unfortunately, you can see the debris that's just littered across the area. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, it looks like you can't even make out some of these objects because that's how badly damaged they are. Now, as we get into the rest of tonight and into tomorrow, we're going to be tracking this line of storms working its way in towards the coastal areas of the East Coast. All right, take a look. We have torcons of 5. That's moderate, not as high as what we've been seeing today, but it's still a decent chance of seeing tornadoes for tomorrow for Raleigh, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. Now, that's right along the coast. All of this energy is going to be heading your way, and it's going to be really into the morning hours. That's going to be the time. So we have that torcon of 5 right in the red right here, kind of a little bit farther south towards the Florida Panhandle. We have torcons of 3 as well as torcons of 2. So, of course, that lower chance extending a little bit farther west of the coast. But we get into it as we have severe thunderstorms. It's not just the tornado threat. We also have those damaging winds, 60+ mile-per-hour winds, as well as plenty of heavy rain, flash flooding. That's going to be a big problem. Take a look as we time it out. 11 p.m. It's still that whole line that Carl was just talking about. That's continuing to work its way through the interior of the South, and then it reaches into parts of the Carolinas. This is 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're watching this whole mess. So make sure you have a way to get those alerts. I think the good news is that so many people are at home, so you are able to shelter in place. So as we get into 10 a.m., it's starting to get closer and closer towards the Outer Banks. So, but by midday, the main time that you will really kind of be good is really closer to about 1 p.m. So by 1 p.m. early afternoon, it's departing the area, and unfortunately, we do have that threat for damaging winds as well.
Domino's has...
Wake up watching AMHQ. Weekday mornings on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 69 degrees with showers in the area. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 64. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to our coverage of severe weather. One of the big things we've been talking about tonight is the fact that these storms are not going to calm down as we get deeper into the evening. You've got an incredibly energetic atmosphere, and it's going to be that way all night long. So let's take a look at some of the latest tornado warnings here, and they are in the southern part of Alabama, just north of Monroeville and west of 65. One of those warnings now in effect here for Clark and Monroe and Wilcox counties going until 10:30. Got a little bit of a notch there that is just east of Thomasville, and so some rotation along with that. That's going to be coming towards Culpeper and Dry Forks and Camden. Then to the north of that, you can see actually a little swirl in the reflectivity right in there. You can see that little bit of swirling going on. That's Wilcox County under warning until 10:30. And there is the rotation right in there. That is southwest of Alberta. Taking a look at the loop here so we can get a sense of the vector. That appears to be just about northeast, maybe just a little south of northeast. So taking that forward, that'll come up into Prairie as well as Alberta and Orville. In all of those areas, we want you to get to your safe place right away, as you've got a possible tornado coming your way. Mark, over to you.
Storm carefully for sure. Now we want to bring in Charles Peak. Charles Peak has been in Laurel, Mississippi for us tonight, and now he can hear us and we can hear him. Charles, the views coming out of your camera here are just heart-wrenching for this Easter Sunday.
Yeah, Mark, and specifically when you think at this location we had a senior adult lady pass away in the storm here. This was the location where she was, and talked to family members here, and they had the warnings. This was a well-built home, but this was just devastating enough that this couldn't be withstood.
I mean, it seems like there is stuff everywhere. Is this all from one home? Were there several homes here?
This is all one home. You can see where I'm standing right now is the foundation, and very little that is here at the foundation site, but off to the north, probably another 25-30 yards is much of the debris from the home. And you can see the walls, you can see air conditioning piping, There's the stove right over here. It really tells you just the devastation that that these experience. One of the bad things here, literally, I've been with the fire department, is they've been having to clear the roads across the street. They had 3 people they had to take to the ambulance or to the hospital by ambulance, and literally we just now got to them where they could do that. Fortunately, they weren't life-threatening injuries, but it's just that bad, and that they couldn't even get the apparatus back here to take people to the hospital.
Hey Charles, Liana Brackett here. Is this the only home that was damaged in the area? Can you kind of describe the entire area? Is this like a lone house? You know, are there other homes that are damaged as well?
Yes, there's several firemen have told me they felt like it was about a mile-wide path along here. You've had numerous homes here. Again, I got an interview with a lady sort of across the street and down about 100 yards, was family member for the lady here, and their house was damaged, and then about another 100 yards down was the ones they had to take to the hospital, and they were in a trailer home that was totally destroyed. So you've got just widespread damage. The public information officer here for the fire department said they had so many injury reports she couldn't even keep up with them.
And I mean, we're looking at your feed here, full refrigerators, stoves that are launched across. I mean, it really does speak to the strength of the speed of the winds. We know that not every home is a well-built, multiple-story brick construction. It's just the fact of life. It's not. But even so, you ever try to move a fridge? It's hard. These things are thrown blocks away. Charles, this is just incredible, the amount of stuff that is thrown around here.
Yes, sir, Mark, and about I'd say about a quarter mile to the north from here, I was on a house earlier, and is a relative of the lady who passed away here, and he's the one that told me. But across the street from his house, he was telling me, because you wouldn't have known it, he said there was a trailer home there. He said, we walked over there, you can't find anything of it left, you know, so fortunately nobody was home in that trailer when that happened, but literally completely gone, not even having debris very close to it.
Now, overall, Charles, is this kind of a, you know, it's just devastating to see something like this, but is it a very tight-knit community as far as, like, is this like one city and then it's completely surrounded by rural terrain?
A lot of it is. This is actually in the rural area where we're at right now, but this particular road, most everybody on here is actually family members. So needless to say, they're cousins and distant family members, but still nonetheless, it's been a shock to have all of them being hit like this. And then they're telling me in Sozo, I think is how you pronounce it, that it's really bad there, and I haven't made it there just yet.
All right, that's Charles Peak, storm tracker for us in Laurel, Mississippi, Jones County. We'll talk with him more coming up. Don't go anywhere.
You may not see them.
Welcome back. We are following very active storms now across a lot of the deep south, and a new warning to tell you about, and that is in far northeastern Alabama, far northwestern Georgia. Tornado warning in effect here for parts of Alabama, small part, DeKalb and Jackson counties under warning, and then in northwest Georgia, it is Dade and Walker counties. We could very well be looking at a tornado coming towards Trenton. You need to get to your safe place right now. Strong circulation showing up there, and that is now just west of Interstate 59 and near Trenton, and about ready to move in. Now moving east at 35 miles per hour. So let's track that forward. And again, it's going to be coming into at least parts of the Trenton area, if not actually right through the downtown, coming into Trenton here in just the next few minutes of very, very short order. Into Durham at 11:04, Hayesville at 11:09, and Chickamauga at 11:14. Now let's circle this area and see if there's some debris showing up. We have been looking at certainly a very strong rotation. I'm not seeing any clear-cut evidence of debris at this time, but the circulation is definitely very strong. And again, that is coming towards Trenton right now and towards that I-59 corridor. So please get to your safe place right now, as you've got a possible tornado coming through. There's a brand new scan and we're still seeing the rotation showing up. And again, that is just about on top of Trenton, right in here. That's the area where it's coming across 59 right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to circle this one more time, and let's see if there's any debris showing up right now. And there is indeed a little bit of debris showing up there, so we could very well be looking at a tornado right now coming just along the south side of Trenton. That's right where we're seeing some rotation showing up, so heads up on that. A possible tornado coming along the south side of Trenton as we speak. There's a tornado watch in effect here for North Georgia. Not in Atlanta right yet, but we do expect that there will be a tornado watch issued for the Atlanta Metro. We're going to talk more about the timing coming up here in a few minutes. Also into South Alabama, got a couple of tornado warnings to tell you about here. Clark, Monroe, and Wilcox County under warning. Seeing some evidence of rotation there just west of Camden. Also another warning to the north of that. That is Wilcox County under warning. And so you can see where we've got these little dog legs right in there. There's one right in there and one right in there. That's where we're looking at potentially some circulation. This is not a great spot for radar. We're pretty far away from the radars here, and so perhaps a tornado coming towards Alberta and Orville as well, and we'll continue to keep a very close eye on that area. Then into Birmingham, great big severe thunderstorm warning has been issued, but all of this weather is going to be translating over across towards the Georgia state line and into Atlanta later tonight, so we want you to be on your toes there in the Atlanta metro area. We'll talk about the timing coming up here in just a couple of minutes, but first let's get out to Mark with the latest on the damage in Mississippi.
Yeah, Carl, the damage that we've been watching in Mississippi has just been heart-wrenching. This is Laurel, Mississippi, debris strewn everywhere. Our own Charles Peak has been tracking the storms and tracking the cleanup after the storms for us as well tonight, and we're bringing him back on live with us right now. Charles, just your heart goes out to these communities and the people that were in these homes. When you see this kind of debris thrown everywhere, there's almost not good words for it.
Yeah, Mark, it's one of those situations that I've been walking around here. You know, right now you look at it and it's just a bunch of tornado debris, but you think about it earlier this morning on Easter Sunday morning, Miss Sarah here, this wasn't how she was thinking her day was going to go. And all of a sudden you sit there and you realize that all of these pieces were part of her life. She was in her 80s, but yet she still lived here, and you wouldn't have thought when she woke up this morning that this was the last day that she would be alive. And so as I'm walking around seeing these different pieces that represent her home and her life, your heart just really breaks, and you realize it's not just tornado debris, it's somebody's home, it's somebody's life, it's Sarah's life, and this is where she lived. And unfortunately, this is where she passed away tonight because of this terrible tornado. And as we know, there's stories like this all over southern Mississippi tonight.
Yeah, just you're right, Charles. It is, you know, pieces of that home and pieces of that life, and just so hard to wrap your head around it coming through the television screen. When you see, a fridge and a freezer there, just so far away from where the home's foundation was. These are not light objects that were tossed by these winds, even if it's not the most well-constructed home on the earth, right? Just the fact that it could move these things that far shows you how strong some of these winds were.
But you can see with a lot of the wooden structure here, this, while not a brick home, was a well-built structure. It wasn't a modular home here. It was a well-built stick home, but yet, needless to say, this tornado took it down to mere rubble.
And it seems like there's trees within it as well. Are there huge trees that maybe crashed through the home, and that's where the weakness occurred from the wind?
No, just to give you an idea of knowing it's a tornado, I can't get back over there now, but behind the debris you see about 20 or 30 yards is the foundation of the house. So obviously it blew all the debris from the house this direction, but as you can see, this tree was blown back towards where the debris is, so almost exactly the opposite of how the house was blown.
Yeah, and that's one of those, telltale signs when you have things blown in two different directions from the same storm that the National Weather Service team would be out looking for and surveying to try to find out the scope of these winds. But just from using the radar earlier, already the National Weather Service was talking about estimating, EF4 potential type storms and type damage just from the radar velocities. Now, that's not the way it will get its final rating, but it does give them a starting point to, look at that upper echelon of tornadoes. This was a very dangerous storm on a very dangerous day. Charles, tell us a little bit about the ordeal it took for you to even get to this home.
Well, unfortunately, I've been in this area before covering tornadoes, and so the Public Information Officer, Dana Bumgardner, with, I think we talked to her a little earlier, with Jones County Fire Department. We're friends now, and I started texting her as I was coming down this way, and she was letting me know some of the things that she was seeing and hearing, and so she escorted me back into this area. But like I said, we had to it probably took over an hour because we had to keep coming to the trees and the firemen with their chainsaws to clear the road for them to be able to get back here.
And I mean, that's an important part of the search and recovery and rescue, but let's say somebody got their foot cut on some of this tornado debris. Without those roads cleared, there's no way to get to them.
That's correct. One of the ones they took to the hospital, she was 14 weeks pregnant, and possibly a broken hip is what some of them said. They obviously have to x-ray that and figure it out, but you can eat with a pregnant lady and it take over an hour to be able to get an ambulance to them. Fortunately, she was in a lot of pain, but she appeared to be okay when they took her off.
It's such a scary night, one of many scary stories. You try to put your mind in that scenario, get in that mindset of what that woman must have been thinking about and feeling for an hour after calling for help and not having anyone arrive. You were driving around. I saw your feed, with the emergency crews as they were trying to make their way through. Could you tell if it was just as difficult to continue in that same direction? I know you stopped here to kind of bring us those views, but were there still trees down out ahead of you that they would still have to cut their way through and basically clear every single road of the county, more or less?
I do believe that was the case. When we turned off on this road, there was still debris, and a sheriff was telling me there was 2 cars blocked, trapped in there, not trapped that the trees were on them, but just they couldn't get out because trees were down in front and behind them. And on this particular road, they've cleared it from both ends. They had to be able to get emergency crews in here because of what all transpired here.
Is there anything that you're seeing that we're not, that is going to be one of those moments that sticks with you? Like, I can't even tell what some of this stuff is as you're walking past.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, right here, there evidently was some kind of garage or carport type situation on cinder blocks. You can see right there is a major transformer that was taken down that I'm sure supplied the house, and you just can't see out here with it so dark. The power lines are everywhere. I can hear in the background is chainsaws going, so obviously they're still clearing roads and trying to get things where that people can get through and check on things. Mark, I see this pretty regularly, but boy, this just breaks my heart to think about what's transpired tonight.
And so that's the main water line that was going into the home, is that correct?
It looks like it does look to be the water line. It goes underneath into the ground, so I'm assuming it was the main line that fed the house, or at least out the back. Well, no, it wouldn't have been the main line because you would have had it under the foundation here.
Yeah, it's so
been
jarring.
An outside spigot of some sort.
It's so jarring because you can't tell where that home was. We can't see the foundation. I know you can kind of get a better sense of it walking around, but it's just a pipe sticking out, spewing water out. We talked to Dana. You're right, Dana Baumgartner, to get some information. She said, luckily, no gas leaks that she's heard of, because that's one of the main risks after a tornado comes through, that the gas lines are severed, and then there could be fires popping up. So the good news is that we haven't heard of that. There haven't been any house fires tonight. But Charles, little consolation when you're seeing a scene like this. Just a devastating scene tonight.
Yeah, you can see here a TV, a window, a bunch of clothes in here. In this particular area, I just walked past it. I'm gonna think that maybe this is a propane type situation rather than natural gas lines, so that might have been a good thing out here in this particular area to not have gas lines going.
Yeah,
you can see here's a tree that was just, I mean, a large tree.
Wow, and just snapped partway up, and the bark is gone. The tree is somewhere else, or you can see parts of the branches there, but goodness gracious. Charles, stay safe out there. You know, as you know, treat all the power lines as if they're live. Watch out where you're stepping. Lots of exposed nails, lots of sharp corners out there. So whether it's Charles walking around or if you're out surveying damage in your home, please be careful tonight. And Charles, we're going to check back in with you in just a little bit. Thank you so much for that report. We do want to go back into the lab now to give everyone an update on where the storms are now and where the most active weather is. So for that, let's go to storm specialist Carl Parker.
Yeah, Mark, and the thing that we really want to impress upon people is that we've got such an energetic system, and it's going to continue to be that way all night long, even into tomorrow morning. And so we're going to see warnings all night long here. We're going to be live with you through the night and into tomorrow morning. So certainly anytime you want to flip on the TV, you can see what's going on. But if you're going to go to bed, make sure you have a way to wake up if a warning is issued. The easiest way to do that for most people is just to leave your phone on and make sure the alert mode is on, because it will let you know if there is a warning for your area. But let's get into some of the warnings right now. First of all, in southern Alabama, and heads up in Montgomery, this weather is not very far away from you and moving quickly as it has all night. Tornado warning for Monroe and Wilcox County. Also tornado warning for Wilcox County to the north there until 10:30. And so we're seeing some little kinks here. There's one little sort of a dog leg right there, another one right in there. And so in those spots, there's potential for tornadoes. This is not actually covered by the tornado warning, but let's just go ahead and show you where that's going to be headed. That's coming towards Tasso, and then another.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Towards Tilden and also into Shawnee, but there's been a severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued farther to the northeast. So they've elected to not continue the tornado warning farther northeast and up into Selma. That's Dallas County under severe thunderstorm warning right now, with the potential for some 60-mile-per-hour wind and also penny-size hail. Now let's go farther north, and we're looking at an ongoing tornado warning in northwest Georgia. Last we checked, not as much of a threat here. You can see how this is merged into more of a damaging wind threat, leading edge of very strong winds now coming across Chattanooga Valley, not very far away from Rock Spring right now. Extending farther down to the south, though, you notice that we've got a tornado watch in effect for North Georgia, but we do expect that a tornado warning is going to be issued for the Atlanta metro, the rest of the Atlanta metro, not very long from now. So don't think that just because there is not a tornado watch in effect that you're going to be in good shape into this evening. That is not the case. Also want to show you a new tornado warning here in South Carolina, and that is in effect now just southeast of Greenville. Tornado warning in effect near due west and moving towards the northeast. That's for Lawrence, Greenville, Spartanburg, Abbeville, and Greenwood counties, moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. I'll track that forward for you and show you where that's going to be headed in the next few minutes. Coming into Cokesbury, as well as Ware Shoals, Gray Court, Fountain Inn, and also into Woodruff. So South Carolina is starting to get in on some of this weather. Back to the Atlanta metro. Here you see all these storms that are now off to the west there. That is what is headed your way. That's what's going to be coming into Atlanta tonight. And so again, heads up, 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning could very well be a whole series of tornado warnings issued across the metro. And then back towards Memphis, Tennessee, we've got severe thunderstorms here. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Crittenden and Cross and St. Francis County. 60-mile-per-hour wind knocking on the door there in Memphis. And then to the south of that, a couple of warnings here and some very strong wind coming towards Holly Springs in the next few minutes.
Not even with all new episodes of Highway Through Hell at 8 and Heavy Rescue at 9, Monday night on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 69 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 63. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to our coverage of severe weather. You were looking at live pictures from Rossville, Georgia. This is just south of Chattanooga, and look at it going there. These are winds of 60 and maybe 70 miles per hour. There is a warning right now for 70-mile-per-hour winds in Chattanooga. You see the frequent lightning as well. A lot of these storms, as they come through tonight, are really going to mean business. There's so much wind in the atmosphere, and it doesn't take very much to bring that wind down to the ground. You've got winds of easily 70 miles per hour.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
These stronger storms, they can transfer that energy down, and the result is what you see right there. And of course, not a lot of people out tonight. This is the last thing that you want to deal with, of course, in a pandemic, but we're going to keep you safe tonight. We're going to be watching this all night long. Our coverage will continue, and we expect to see more of this kind of thing going on right through the overnight hours, even into tomorrow morning. It's really not going to let up, as you've got such a strong parent system coming through the southeast right now. So going to be a really serious, not just tornado threat, but damaging wind threat as well. And there's a live look at Chattanooga. And so we've got, again, this very serious wind threat now coming through. And let's talk a little bit about the storm that is now moving through this area. So we'll zoom on in. And you'll notice that the weather is extending now from northeast parts of Alabama into northwest Georgia. Here you see a couple of warnings. Ongoing warning for Walker County, but the storm is through now. It's just basically a wind threat. Here's the tornado warning issued just south of Chattanooga. So what's happening here is you've got the leading edge of some very strong wind right there, and then a little kink has developed along that leading edge, and it is with that there could be a tornado circulation. And this is just about the camera that we were looking at there. You still see it up there in the bottom of your screen. So this possible tornado coming towards East Brainerd at about 11:24, Drake Forest at 11:26, and McDonald at 11:39. If we don't see a tornado out of this, certainly there's just a very serious damaging wind threat in all those areas. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of these velocities there. That is just west of 75. Now this is off the ground a little bit, so this is not exactly what's happening at the ground, but just a few thousand feet up, you've got winds of 79 miles per hour outbound. And so, again, that's the kind of wind that we're seeing aloft, and it doesn't take a whole lot to bring that down to the ground. So that's what we're going to be facing here. That is now coming into Chattanooga, and we'll continue off to the northeast. Let's take a broader look here and just track this entire area.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
We're going to be in for some really strong wind. I'm going to do that one more time. We just got a brand new scan there, so I'm going to update that. And boy, look at that leading surge right in there. So this coming up to the northeast, moving towards Harrison.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
I'm going to go back one more time so we can get another better look at that. And right in there, look at that surge. I mean, that is a tremendous surge of wind. That's what we were just looking at moments ago in Rossville. You're still seeing it there. It's still going. It's not quite as strong right now as it was, but that is what has come through. And again, as we look at the velocity data with these storms, look at that. That's an 85 mile per hour wind that's just several thousand feet off the ground. And so, you've got tremendous velocity that can be brought down to the ground. So, in addition to this tornado threat, you've got a very serious damaging wind threat that is now coming through, and that's going to be coming into Drake Forest as well as East Brainerd, but it's really at the apex of that, right in there. That area right there is where you've got the maximum damaging wind threat, and that is now coming towards East Brainerd. So heads up there. Brand new scan has just come in. Let's take a look at that. And that is actually starting to really curl up now even a little bit more. So this is looking a little bit more like a possible tornado. So you've got winds that are surging forward just like this, and then you've got inflow right in there. That is a circulation that's developing right there. So possible tornado now near East Brainerd. I'm going to look and see if there's any evidence of debris. No debris at this time, but that is actually a pretty tight circulation, and that could very well be a tornado developing right now. So that coming up just north of East Brainerd. It's going to be on top of you in Drake Forest in very short order, then coming towards Ooltewah and towards Mineral Park after that. So a possible tornado developing now southeast Tennessee and not very far away from Chattanooga. Let's expand a little farther south, and I want you to notice that there is not yet a tornado watch in Atlanta, but it's coming. There will be a tornado watch in the Atlanta metro later tonight as all this weather is going to be coming in. We've got, again, just such an energetic atmosphere, and we don't believe that things are going to be settling down tonight. Closer look at what's going on in southern Alabama. Got a severe warning for Butler and Monroe and Wilcox County.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
In Dallas County, so this is now coming into Selma and not very far away from Montgomery. Heads up there in Montgomery as you could be in for some pretty rough stuff later tonight. So a really strong parent system, as I mentioned, and we've also got plenty of instability. This in red color here is indicating the fuel for these thunderstorms. There's no shortage of that. There's going to be plenty of that, and even where you're not seeing as much of it in South Carolina and parts of North Carolina, it's going to be lifting up through the night tonight. So by the time we get into tomorrow morning, there's going to be a very serious, severe threat extending all across the Carolinas. So this line of storms on the way for the Atlanta metro, and 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, very strong storms coming through. We'll have more on this coming up.
Boss, well, back check. Get the flavor.
Oh, really? Oh.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
That hit Laurel, Mississippi just earlier today. Look at this. Look at that monstrosity out in the distance. Unfortunately, the storm, this killed 7 people across the southern tier of Mississippi and also caused major damage. We've been showing you some of the video of the damages from this tornado from several of our storm trackers throughout the night. People are still picking up the debris, but look at that. You can hear the wind. You can hear the sirens going. You definitely need to make sure you have a way to get those alerts. This line of storms continues to work its way east. And Carl, I hear you have a tornado emergency now for parts of Tennessee. Let's send it out to you.
Yeah, that's right. We're looking at a very dangerous storm now just north of the Georgia-Tennessee line and southeast of Chattanooga. Let's take a look at the latest on this storm. And a couple of tornado warnings in effect here. One for Hamilton County. This is coming towards Ooltewah right now. Another warning also to the east of that. That includes Cleveland, and that is Bradley and Polk counties. We're seeing very strong rotation showing up here in the velocity data. And look at this debris signature, a very well-defined debris signature now just west of Ooltewah. And so you can see how this has popped up in just the last couple of frames, and that appears to be coming right towards Ooltewah. So please, folks, if you're in Ooltewah, it is time to get to your safe place right now, as this is now moving to the northeast, and that is going to be coming in just the next few minutes. Let me get another look at the just the motion on this, how fast it is coming through. And these storms have been moving generally very quickly. This is 45 miles per hour. So again, we'll go back to that. And that is not going to give you a lot of time. That is coming right up and along 75, moving towards Ooltewah, most likely in just a few minutes. So you've got just maybe 3 minutes in Ooltewah. Get to your safe place right now, lowest, most interior room, as many walls between you and the outside as is possible. If you've got a moment to grab a helmet, don't spend a lot of time, but if you have a moment to, that's a good idea too. Here we've got a brand new scan, and that is now just about on you in Ooltewah. So it is time right now. You do not have time to try to figure out what's going on. Please don't try to go outside and see what's happening here. You've got a large tornado
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Coming into Ooltewah, and again, this is a tornado emergency that has been issued for this area. That is a very well-developed debris signature. What this is showing us is the actual tornado. This is showing us where you've got debris that could be tree debris, but it could be structural debris as well. That area of blue there with a little bit of green, that is where the radar is picking that up, and that is now coming right into Ooltewah. And so you've got no time. You've got just a moment. There's a brand new scan there, brand new scan, and not quite as profound in this brand new scan. But it's
a tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Everybody that is in Ooltewah has gotten to their safe place because this thing is now moving in right now. Now, sometimes this can mean that the storm is getting a little bit weaker, but sometimes it does not mean that. Sometimes it just means that it's not picking up as much debris. Let's go back to the velocity data and see what that is showing us. Still a very well-developed circulation as you would expect here. And as I'm going to get a sense of the vector once again, and that looks to be just a little south of northeast. So that is also headed towards Cleveland as well as that moves off to the northeast. But more immediately coming towards McDonald and coming towards Black Fox. You're next in line here. Again, this is very rapidly moving northeast at 45 miles per hour, basically just southeast of the 75 corridor. And then if it's still going, it'll be coming towards Cleveland at about 11:46 or so, moving northeast at 45 miles per hour. But again, that area of green is debris that is now coming into Ooltewah. So I can only hope that everybody has gotten to their safe place there as a tornado has now come in. And we'll be coming up into McDonald and also into Black Fox here in just the next few minutes. It is now 3 minutes past the bottom of the hour, 3:25, 3:26. And so you got about 4 minutes before this comes into McDonald. And you've got now about 8 minutes before it comes into Black Fox. Not very much time at all. There's a new scan there. Let's see what we've got in the new scan. And so, the trend here is that we are seeing less debris. So, cautiously, I should say, that is encouraging. Let's hope that that means that we're actually seeing a weakening storm here. You can't always count on that, but right in there, we saw very clearly a profound debris signature, and right now it appears that there's not as much intensity to this storm, but again, you can't always count on that. Let's also look at the velocity data, and in the velocity data, it's very noisy, but still a strong circulation.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Just southeast of 75 and coming towards McDonald and Black Fox. We'll have more on this very dangerous storm coming up in just a few minutes.
Security! Security!
What's the problem? Welcome back. We've been following a tornado emergency in parts of Tennessee, not very far away from Chattanooga. Let's show you what's going on with this storm. This is now just north of the Georgia state line. Tornado emergency for Hamilton County, and then also an ongoing tornado warning for areas farther east, including Bradley and Polk counties. Now, as we look at the data here, it is cautiously encouraging, but we still do have a strong circulation showing up, and that is now coming towards Cleveland. So this is now moving to the northeast. We're going to be coming into McDonald in just the next few minutes, moving into Black Fox at 11:42. So again, a few minutes away there. It's actually should be just about on top of McDonald. Dockery at 11:44, and then Cleveland at 11:46. So in all of those areas, you've got to get to your safe place right now, as we've got a very serious storm coming your way. Now, I want to show you what's going on with the correlation coefficient. This is where we see debris, and we were looking at a monstrous debris signature. This is just south of 75, and as you move out east along from Chattanooga towards Ooltewah, just a monstrous debris signature indicating a very strong tornado. And right as it came into Ooltewah, we see that it started to fade there. So this is why I say I am cautiously optimistic that maybe we are seeing a weakening trend here. And indeed, as we look at the latest velocity data, we still certainly do see a rotation there, but it appears to be broadening out some. It's not as intense as it was moments ago. We can go back a few scans here, and you can see right in there, in particular, just
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Very tight circulation right in there. That's when that debris signature was maximizing, and you can compare the character of that to what is happening now. It's still rotating, but it's just broader. It's a broader circulation, and so it may be that we are seeing, at least for now, somewhat of a weakening trend. However, this is still a very dangerous storm. So again, I want you to be on your toes here and just get into your safe place right now. Don't take any chances with this, as this is now just west of Cleveland, coming towards Green Meadow, and it's going to be moving into Cleveland at 11:47. So you've got just about 7 minutes or so in Cleveland before this storm moves in. And we're going to continue to watch the radar trend very closely and keep a really sharp eye on this. We also, though, want to get a look at some of the other warnings that are ongoing in other areas, and here's Mark with more on that.
Yeah, Carl, I wish we could say that was just one storm to follow and then we could just give all our attention to that, especially when it is such a potentially dangerous storm. But there are several other areas that we are monitoring right now, so let's bring you up to speed on those as well. We can start off by looking into southern portions of Alabama. Big cluster of storms here, pooling some of its cold air, and so we're seeing a lot of this push forward. Very strong winds pointed right at Montgomery, the south side of Montgomery, under a severe thunderstorm warning. That said, look at some of the development out ahead of that push, out ahead of the line of storms. There is still a lot of spin in the environment, and any of these could start to get a surface connection sooner rather than later and wind up giving you a tornado warning. So gotta watch that area very carefully. We do have tornado warnings, however, as we look towards northern portions of Alabama and just crossing over into Georgia. This includes the DeKalb area of Alabama until 10:45, and then we can watch a little bit farther east from there as we get towards the Georgia border, and then the newest in Chattooga County as well as Floyd, that includes Somerville. We're watching the same surge forward, that same rotation, so that's just crossing over the border.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Until 12:15. As for the rotation within this zone, this is the problem. Look at how we've had that surge forward in here, but there's still at least some indication of at least some broad rotation within that surge forward. And this is some really strong wind. That blue color is indicating 70-mile-per-hour wind potential. Even if it's not rotating, that is
a tornado warning has been issued for our area.
We are talking about that potential for some damage to come in towards that kind of Alabama-Georgia border zone just south of Menlo. No clear sign of debris being lofted into the air. What you're seeing on this, that's going down the radar beam, and there's likely some hail back here that is then blocking that beam the rest of the way. And so that small hail...
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
But the good news is that there's not a clear sign of large debris being lofted into the air. At least not yet. It doesn't mean that there won't be a tornado with this. We have to carefully watch this as it continues to progress off towards the east. That does include the Menlo area by about next 5-10 minutes. Lyerly next in line from there, then Somerville by about 11:55 or so, so 15 minutes, and then getting towards East Tryon.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Is included in the tornado warning that was just issued by the Peachtree City office on the Georgia side. That goes until 12:15. This whole clustering of storms has given us very, very heavy rainfall rates. There's actually been some reports of water rescues. There was reports of water covering the roads in the Tuscaloosa area. You're getting at least a brief reprise from the worst of the rain.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
On the east side of the area, that does not mean I would want to be traveling down I-20, Birmingham, off towards Atlanta. You'd go right through that torrential rain, real low visibility, and overall just a terrible, terrible drive. Where those storms have gone through, look at the power outages. Birmingham has now jumped up to that 30,000 customer category, that orange color indicating at least 30,000 customers
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Tuscaloosa and the counties just north of Birmingham, as well as northwest of Birmingham, in that 10 to 20,000 customers. Remember, a customer does not necessarily mean a person. There could be multiple people as one customer. Brand new tornado watch has just been issued. Goes all the way through the rest of the night until 6 a.m. This is the one that you may have been waiting for in the Atlanta area in Macon.
A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. Tornado watch continues until 6 a.m. We're staying live with you through the night.
The way. Wake up watching AMHQ. Weekday mornings on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 70 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, windy, strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds with some storms, low 63. Monday, mainly clear and windy, high 77. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of severe weather. It's an active night across the south. I'm meteorologist Mark Elliott. You'll also hear from Liana Brackett as well as storm specialist Carl Parker tonight. We're following these storms that have already been really dangerous. We've had fatalities, people killed by the storms today on this Easter Sunday. And we're not done yet. This is a look at the active watches across the south. The upper level feature and some very strong winds are punching their way into the Memphis area. New tornado watches have now been issued through much of the southeast. Atlanta all the way down through the western side of the Florida Panhandle. Goes until the morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Central Time. Here's a look at that newest watch. Again, 6 a.m. on the the Central Time side of things, 7 a.m. towards Atlanta, towards Macon, towards Albany. Now, I think this will start to get trimmed back from west to east. It won't be 7 a.m. until the storms get to you in Atlanta. But what this does tell you is that you have to have a way to get those warnings. You have to pay attention, have somebody that's staying up, have a way to be woken if there are storms coming your way. Tornado watch that has been issued through the rest of the overnight hours. And when you look at the coverage here, it points out that there are multiple threats that we're taking you through tonight. Not only are we looking at new tornado warnings popping up across southern Tennessee, we've got tornado warnings in Georgia, a whole smattering of severe thunderstorms, and then look at this corridor of really heavy rain. It's not advancing off towards the east that quickly. The storm motion is kind of off towards the northeast, not due east. And so it's going to take a while to clear you through. Flash flooding is then a high risk also. Newest of the tornado warnings here in southern Tennessee. We've been following this storm, and you can almost feel that big, swirl, that counterclockwise spin as the storm has gotten organized. Now, within that little comma head, we have a brand new area that looks to be much more organized with its circulation for Bradley and for Polk. And so here's a look at that circulation. Not necessarily the tightest couplet we've ever seen, but enough just east of Cleveland that rotation is trying to tighten up again. Big surge forward with that wind right in here, and that inflow air that I was showing you curls back around like this. And so where that air gets kind of dragged back into the storm and interacts with that surge forward, you wind up with that counterclockwise spin zone basically right in here where those winds interact. So that's the counterclockwise spin that they're looking at that could tighten up and give you a tornado. This storm has a history of doing that very thing, and we're starting to see that kind of when you see the colors kind of switching like that, it indicates that the radar is having a real tough time even figuring out what the winds are doing. That shows you that tightening up that is occurring in that area. So that's a storm that we're definitely following very carefully in southern portions of Tennessee. On the Georgia side of things, again, North Georgia has seen all the action well north of Atlanta, but now into Chattooga and Floyd. This is a storm that also came out of Alabama and still also has that curly Q, right? You can see that shape right in here. Well, this one on that leading edge of the surge forward, you've had these kind of mini kinks in that line with just enough rotation at times on that leading edge that there has been the need for these tornado warnings. I think the bigger threat here is the straight-lined wind energy that is plowing on into places like Lyerly, like Somerville. Many of you are going to see strong winds with this. Not necessarily rotating winds, but strong enough to still have damage. 50, 60, even 70-mile-per-hour winds, not out of the question tonight. Here's a rough look at the timing. This might need to be updated and dragged on off towards the east just a little bit to give you a better idea of where those winds are going. Lyerly in about 5 minutes or so. Somerville just before the top of the hour, and then Crystal Springs next in line after that. Liana, a very active evening. We are not done as the low-level winds are still increasing, supporting these organized storms tonight.
Yeah, we've already had a history of all this damage of the tornadoes that worked their way through parts of Mississippi. Here's a live view of Laurel, Mississippi, where Charles Peak, our storm tracker, is taking this image right here. I mean, we're looking at a car of the fire rescue actually trying to make their way across the area, but I believe this is still the site where an elderly woman around 80 years old was unfortunately killed in the tornado. Her home completely demolished. You can still see all the debris strewn across the road out here. I mean, you can even see onto the side, looks like some kind of debris from a house and trees, power lines all down. Let's take a quick recap of this storm system that's worked its way through the south over the past several hours. As you take a look, I mean, this is a recap starting around 3 o'clock Central Time. Here's Laurel right smack dab right along I-59. We're going to be watching that mess work its way from west to east. Look at all of the tornado reports that popped up with that line. You can see this closest one right outside just to the west of the city. So this is just in a matter of about an hour or so, hour and a half, where we saw that whole line just stretch and work its way through the area. So over the past 24 hours, not only do we have those tornado reports, plenty of power outages, and they're still coming in as this whole line moves to the east. Watching what's happening right now, taking a zoomed out look at the entire region. Notice as we put it into motion, watch this main line right here. This is where all those reports started to span up and spur up all across the region, and we're still seeing all those tornado reports coming in as we get into the overnight hours. Be prepared. This whole line has that history, so that's one thing that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Take a look at the past 24 hours. Numerous wind reports, tornado warnings and watches reported, as well as hail, and unfortunately we're going to continue to see that tonight.
I'm Greg.